Hello, how the tech are you? This is our weekly tech news show. We go over tech news and I don't know, other techie stuff and whatever we feel like talking about. I am historian Matt, and in my segment, I have a new section, new thing I'm trying called Weird Robot News. And then after that, we're doing a little NFT update / correction or just follow up. I don't know what you want to call it. We talked about NFTs last episode and some stuff came up. So I have a really short one this time, but I think it's a good one. So only other guy on the show.
Yeah, I believe HK is off on an adventure this week, and he'll be joining us next week. You'll also be able to catch him this Wednesday on the Intellectual Dollar Tree. I'm Producer Dave. I am the one that's recording this show, so that's why I'm here mostly. This week, I'm actually going to be talking about the hardware that I've purchased for this podcast and streaming studio that I've built in a spare room at my apartment. And so, like you said, I think my segment will be rather quick, but I do really love gear, and I love talking about gear. And on the next show, I think people will be a little more interested in it. I'm going to talk about the software, not only the software I'm using here in the studio, but the software that we have on different servers, serving other purposes for us, for recording, broadcasting, and that kind of stuff. So take it away with your segment, Matt.
All right. So my first part of my segment is Weird Robot News. This is a fun one. Unfortunately, I found out recently this is not as new as I thought it was, but it's still fun. So the news is first robot to post a profile on a dating app, specifically Tinder. Do we have the image up? I know people who are listening on the podcast won't be able to see it, but you should look this up if you have a chance. The robot's name is Harmony, and the description of this particular, they call it a robot doll, it's an anatomically correct robot doll with a patented animatronic talking head with programmable personality and memory. If you've seen this image, I don't know, like, do you know the real dolls? Yeah, have you heard of that? Yeah, Dave? Yeah.
I do know the real dolls, and it kind of brings me back to something we talked about last night, but that's a little different.
Okay. Well, I was just going to say that if you're imagining a real doll that basically has a moving mouth and can make sounds, and it's almost exclusively just a moving mouth. The eyes move a little bit. That's pretty much what this robot is. But it wasn't actually the creator of this robot. You can apparently buy this Harmony robot for your own uses, whatever those uses are.
We don't judge.
What?
We don't judge.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe I'm judging you a little bit. Maybe if you buy this thing, maybe I'm judging a little bit.
A little bit. I think it's I didn't write this down, so I'm not positive. I think it's like $10,000. So it's kind of expensive. But so one of the owners, somebody who's bought the doll, this robot, decided to make a Tinder profile for her. Posted it on Tinder, and it was in the location of Lower East Side of Manhattan. And apparently the profile was up for about 2 hours and got 92 matches. 92 whole matches, which is about 92 more matches than I've ever gotten on Tinder.
So what I have to assume they were doing, right, is they were probably swiping right on everyone.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't look closely, she looks like a real person and not a robot. So, and if they weren't reading the description at all, then they may have not noticed that.
Right, I would imagine it's some combination of people who were intrigued by the description. I mean,
some of them probably were, yeah.
And some people who just didn't read it and saw what appeared to be a pretty lady.
Yeah, exactly. Apparently at 92 matches, that makes Harmony more popular than most humans on Tinder. So higher number of matches. But I love this description that was included. At least apparently the description was different or changed or something, but this is like part of what one of the descriptions included, which is basically, "Hi, I'm an anatomically correct, physically capable robot with the most advanced AI available." Very fun. I don't know if there was any follow up to this. I don't know if Harmony actually went out on any actual dates or what happened. I did find out recently that I thought this was fairly new from my original source. They didn't say when this happened, but apparently some other sources that I just found right before the show. So this actually happened in 2018. So it was a little while ago.
Maybe she's still on there. Maybe she found the love of her life.
Maybe. Yeah.
Maybe she found someone who was at one time interested in ethics and game journalism.
What are you trying to say?
Well, people who know, they know.
They know. Yeah. Yeah. All right. That's all I have for my first segment. So the second one is on NFTs. We mentioned it last time in our previous show. We didn't go into detail. We did talk a little bit about what NFTs are, but it was mostly about the Coinbase, and the last show is Coinbase starting an NFT market. Well, right after our show came out, there's another major YouTube creator who a lot of us watch. Dave, do you watch Legal Eagle?
I do. I like his I like his content. I was joking with you before because the link to his video was in the show notes. I was like, we're not really going to run video from a copyright lawyer on our show, are we?
No. Yeah, I don't know if you wanted to show the image from it, but yeah, so he went over, I don't know if he's a copyright lawyer, who's definitely a trial lawyer at one point. But, he went over all the copyright issues with NFTs and just basically all the legal issues. It's not just copyright. And I just wanted to kind of do a shout out. I'm going to put a link in the show notes for this, but I wanted to cover a little bit of what, do a little overview of what he said about NFTs. The first thing is on NFTs, he says they really kind of work as a receipt. So the NFT, you're not buying the actual, you're not buying the actual image. You're buying a receipt that's put on the blockchain that says that you bought this image. Basically, very weird. But how this whole thing, all these NFTs actually interact with copyright laws is very questionable. I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not going to go into a lot of the details, but I do want to cover some stuff like, do you know what a click wrap agreement is, Dave?
No, and I would be willing to bet the average person who's listening to this also doesn't know what that is. Do you know what it is?
Well, I only know because Legal Eagle went over it. Blah. But that's basically when you install new software and the agreement that pops up that you don't ever read and just immediately click agree on, that is what they call click wrap agreement. Right. Gotcha.
Well, so, in my case, more often than not, that would be instead of that, all the software is GPL that I'm using.
Right. That's still a click wrap agreement. You're just agreeing to the GPL or what is it? Apache license is also very common. Those licenses. It's basically what that is. And I think it's kind of not just the license, but the way that it's, shown to you, right? You have to agree to it before you can move on. Well, NFTs generally don't come with that. And that's kind of a problem because you don't know what you're actually buying and what was the other thing? What exactly is the seller agreeing to do and what are you agreeing to do for the NFTs? Like sometimes these NFTs come with other things, meeting the creator or something like that. Or I think the Bored Apes came with a coin that you're supposed to get later on, which I guess they actually did. And coin, I mean a crypto coin, not like a real physical thing. But they did. I don't think I'm not sure about Bored Apes. I don't know specifics on some of this stuff, but if they don't come with that click wrap agreement, you don't know what you're actually getting. Like they can say stuff, but that's not legally binding, right? So that's a huge issue. And along with that, and it's kind of like with the copyright part of it, the Bored Apes, which is a really popular one, is apparently generated images, which makes sense because they all look exactly this, or almost exactly the same with little things different, right? And apparently what they actually look like is generated from a computer program where they just basically hash the different variations of what they can have, right? Different looking eyes, different mouth, and that sort of thing. Well, if it's generated from a computer algorithm and there is no human involved in actually making it, it's a little bit nebulous because a human initially made the original apes, right? And the different variations or different parts you can put on, but it was generated by a computer. Well, there's pretty solid like copyright law that only a human can create art that is copyrightable. And if a computer is generating it, it may not be copyrightable at all. So you like, if you buy this NFT, you're buying nothing again. And
right.
Then, yeah.
I just, so the NFT itself, it's a non-fungible token, right? And the idea is because cryptocurrency is basically infinitely fungible, which means you can divide it up.
It's fungible. I don't think infinite is a thing, but it's just fungible.
Well, I mean, $1, you can only really take it down to a penny in the real world. You know what I'm saying?
No, that's not what it means. Fungible means that you can exchange it for something else. So for the exact same thing. So $1 is fungible because you can exchange it for another $1 and it's exactly the same thing, like exactly the same value.
Oh,
for it.
Listen to me not knowing what I'm talking about at all. That's my role here. So these are non-fungible. And what does that mean? Like
so that
to someone like me who doesn't.
If you have one Bored Ape, you can't exchange it for another one of this and have it be the same value. They're fundamentally different, and they have different values, and they're different images, associated with it.
Gotcha. It might happen to be the two of them are worth the same amount, but that would be coincidence, not fungibility.
Right. Exactly.
Okay. So
yeah,
you're interested in cryptocurrency and blockchain. What is your general view on NFTs?
I'm kind of iffy on them because at some level, I like the idea that artists have a way that they can make, different way they can make money, especially like digital artists don't have very good ways they can make a living with their art, And this was an interesting way that people could do that. They could start selling NFTs and make a living off of it, and add art and digital art to the world, kind of thing. But ultimately, right now, I think it's being completely overrun by scammers and promoters. People who are not in it for the art; they're in it to make money. And I think it's going to be it is a big problem, and I think it's going to continue to be a big problem for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, I know a few digital artists who sort of tried to get on board when they first heard about it, and not trying to speak too much for other people, but a couple of them said that their experience was largely that they felt like small creators and digital artists were getting crowded out of the space by a bunch of Bitcoin bros, and that it didn't make sense to them to do it except as a way to sort of generate income, as if people are giving them a tip almost. It was sort of how they ended up looking at it. And the artists I know are like, well, I could just do Patreon, or I could just, eBay or whatever. And I think, one of the big problems is it's just the lack of regulation around it. Like if this were more regulated, I could see a way in which you wouldn't be able to do what the Bored Apes people did, where they just computer generated a bunch of images and sold them. An interesting way that it could work out would be like, to make an NFT of some piece of art, you would have to be the copyright owner, or even I would say the original artist. And then that would be an interesting way where if I wanted to make an NFT of the logo for our podcast network, I don't know why anyone would pay for the NFT. They would be giving me a tip in that particular case. But I am the original artist. I made that in Inkscape. I have the original file. I can prove that I made the logos. But in this case, that's not even a requirement. And there's been cases where people just straight up stole someone else's art and turned it into an NFT.
Yep, that is true. And well, they're obviously infringing on copyright, but like, what can you do? Also, like as you know, I paint, I make art myself, and I tried turning one of my paintings in an NFT, and it was a similar experience. One of the big things that I've noticed when I tried to sell it is like, you have to basically sell it for $1,000 or more to like make any money at all, because the costs of transferring stuff on the blockchain is so high, at least on Ethereum. So like, but I don't really feel like the stuff that I make is at that level. I wasn't intending to sell like at that level. It's hard to break in at a lower level and then work your way up to selling more expensive stuff, which is what my plan was. So I kind of gave up on it.
Right, because if you break in at a lower level, you're going to end up losing money on each NFT you sell.
Yep, pretty much.
Yeah, that's bad. This whole thing is fraught with a lot of other problems too. There are people writing articles about how the Bored Apes specifically, their logos and stuff are reminiscent of some fascist iconography, and that
I think some of them, yeah.
And just the depictions of some of the apes look a little problematic because they're like wearing a gold chain and shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. I don't have any reason to believe the people who started this like really had that as their intent, except for their logo. Somebody did a video about how one of their logos for the Bored Ape Yacht Club is very reminiscent of a logo for a European enthusiast organization, let's say.
Okay.
So, and like anything else like this, I think there's just so many ways for a bunch of bad actors, and I don't mean like Nicolas Cage, I mean people who have bad character and behave badly, to get involved and like, scam people, take advantage of artists, and possibly spread messages that, the people buying the NFTs or who are involved in the NFT community don't even know that they're helping spread. Because imagery is very powerful, and when it's attached to money like this, and when you just consider the crypto community at large being, let's just face it, it's like guys that look like us,
Yeah.
And so it's just fraught with like sort of societal problems. I think that, maybe the people who started it out and even the people, doing the Bored Apes never intended. And it just seems like if this is going to be good for artists, it seems like some reputable organization needs to step in and, create a marketplace where people can make money and things are, traded more fairly. And you're not just at the whim of, whatever NFT exchange you're on, if like the Getty got involved or, some, state or federal government, like National Endowment for the Arts, or if someone like reputable got involved and sort of tried to like moderate and make sure the contracts attached to them were fair to everybody. And like you said, the transaction fee, that has to go down. That just absolutely has to go down. Because
that's actually not directly related to NFTs. That has to do with at least Ethereum. If you're minting them on Ethereum, the Ethereum network, and we'll see if that changes in the future. There's reasons that it could with the new update. But also, it's just that the price is really high for Ethereum right now.
Right. Minting the NFT is expensive, essentially.
Right. Yeah. That's a technical thing. That's not something that somebody just pulled out of the top of their head or something.
Right. It was, what is that? It was a pre-existing condition.
Yeah, exactly. But that's all I have for my segment. Looks like I actually was in time-ish. So what do you got, Dave?
This week I'm going to do the hardware that I have here in this studio. I think the people that are kind of interested in this podcast are going to like what I'm doing next week, but I thought that I would end up going really long if I went over all of it, if there was any kind of back and forth or whatever between the hosts. So we're going to do the hardware this week. And some of it I'm going to gloss over because like it actually doesn't matter. For example, the first piece of hardware I have to do this is a computer, right?
Yeah.
But
it's a specific computer?
It is a mid-range gaming computer.
Okay.
There's no reason for me to go over everything inside of this computer. There's a show called This Week in Computer Hardware. If people are interested in dorky hardware stuff, those guys do a really good job. Check their show out. That's not this show. The only thing is, the reason you build a gaming computer for streaming, even if you're not gaming, is the demands on the computer are going to be very much the same. You still need both compute processor from the CPU and graphics horsepower to display things on the screen. And, the other thing is it's overbuilt for what we're doing, because it's better to have too much power and not have your fans running the whole time than to be like stressing the machine, because then parts wear out more quickly and it just becomes more unreliable. And the computer runs Ubuntu Linux. All of the production machines here, save for the one behind me that I DJ on, which I'll talk about later, it runs Linux. I have various random computer displays. None of them are all that great, and so there's no real reason to talk about what they are. It's just that I like to have a lot of displays so that I can separate things off and kind of know, on this display is this stuff, on this display is my browser, and it's good to be able to separate things out. Other people prefer less bigger displays, but I've never preferred that. I've always liked things being sectioned off. Even when I'm doing regular work, I like basically browser in one window, terminal in another window, and email on another display, and email on another display.
To paint an image for our listeners, since I've been in your studio, I don't know if it's changed since I've been there, but kind of looks like the desk you'd see for like a stock trader or crypto trader. They have like screens everywhere, right? Only instead of having the charts up, it's all stuff having to do with the podcast.
Yeah, and there'll be a link to the page on our wiki about the studio, and you'll be able to see a picture of the studio. Matt, you might be interested in it because it'll be a picture of the studio, like very clean.
Oh, really?
I was like, picture time. I guess I should get out a feather duster and a vacuum.
Yeah.
There's usually like yesterday's beer bottle and like weed and weed grind. There's stuff everywhere. But I also have a couple laptops. I have one that I use to manage Discord and Video Ninja. If like we're doing something with a waiting room, the people in the waiting room will be on another display so that I don't have to tab back and forth on one of the other millions of displays I have here. And the other laptop is just my carry around that I use to read the chat and stuff. And the Twitch dashboard and that kind of stuff. I have an Android tablet, which people would be like, why do you have an Android tablet? Well, HK isn't here, but he can be here for just a minute because of this Android tablet.
I like to think that I'm smart enough to not eat a Tide Pod.
It's for like morning zoo style hits and stuff. We've got a variety of different kind of mics in here. The one I'm on is a Shure MV7. It's actually super happy with it. It's halfway between the SM58 and the SM7B. It's about $250. I'm pretty happy with the purchase. It's both go ahead.
That microphone looks like the one that every other podcast has, only I guess it's a cheaper version of it.
Yeah, it's a littler version of it. Yeah, and it comes in silver and there's stickers on it and stuff. I don't have to describe the stickers though. These are custom. I've also got a 50th anniversary Shure SM58, which I'm not particularly fond of the mic itself. It's just a legendary microphone. And when I saw on eBay a few years back that it was the 50th anniversary, I'm like, I should probably pick one of those up because I do care about microphones. And I have 2 or 3 of these Behringer XM8500 microphones. And if people are going to do a podcast and they're not going to be using a USB mic, I can't even begin to talk about how impressed I am with the Behringer XM8500. You've spoken into it before. It's the black ones that I have. They're $25.
Wow.
And they sound really good. As long as you have them hooked up to a proper mic preamp. Obviously at $25, they're not also going to be USB. They're just a straight XLR microphone. They're pretty much a knockoff of the Shure SM58, but I do like the Behringer mic seems to reject off axis a little bit better than the Shure mic, which isn't as important here as it once was when there were 5, sometimes 6 people in this tiny room. But it was very important when we would try to fill all the chairs here that the mics rejected off axis. It wasn't that we were going through and multi-track editing everything. It was just that it was less boomy sounding. And so that's the mics. We used to have the mic you were talking about, a Shure S. What was it? Oh no, it's a Shure.
Don't know.
oh no, it's like the most popular mic ever too, and I'm just like spacing on it. It's the
like Joe Rogan's mic, and then everybody got the same mic.
Joe Rogan, Sam Cedar.
Yeah.
Anyway, you know the mic I have. It turned out that a vocalist friend of mine wanted it and offered me about what I paid for it right around the time that I wanted to build a computer. And I was like, well, shit, that's like 2/3 of a mid-range gaming computer. This is right before the chip shortage, and I had other mics. So that's how that worked out. God, I can't believe I'm spacing on the name of that mic, because it's like the most legendary microphone that ever existed. But it doesn't matter. The people in the audience know exactly what mic I'm talking about. It does look similar to this one. I have the Focusrite 18i20 audio interface, which is what plugs into the computer. It's the USB audio interface. It has 8 in and 8 out for the XLR and 1/4 inch connections, but the circuitry in it can do 18 in and 20 out. And that's because you can attach other stuff to it. You can attach an optical, like the SPDIF format.
Yeah.
People use it a lot of times in their home theater so that they can get surround sound. So you can attach that, but that'll only give you an extra 2 stereo channels. But what I also have is the Focusrite Octopre, which connects to this, and it adds 8 more XLR in, or 8 more XLR/1/4 inch in and out. So it's a total of 16 in and out via XLR and 1/4 inch, which was fantastic and useful until the pandemic hit, and most of the time I was sitting here by myself. But a fun story about that is the way I have everything set up here, I actually do need more than 8 inputs, just because it's not because I'm using them all the time. It's because, like, if a band comes in, just 2 guitarists come in, well, that means I need a mic for each of their guitars and a mic for each of their vocals. So that fills up 4 of the channels, plus the channel for my mic, plus the channel for this, the soundboard, plus a channel for Discord. And then all of a sudden you're over 8 channels. And so now you need more. And so luckily enough, this allows you to connect it again via an optical cable, and you can add 8 in and 8 out to it. Fun story about that. The last one I had just quit on me one day right in the middle of my show, and I couldn't use Discord or anything because it's hooked up via Discord, or Discord's hooked up to it. So instead of like rewiring everything, I just went the next day and paid list price at Guitar Center. It was sad. Because the first one I got, I paid like $354 or $380.
Yeah.
List on it was $599.99, and it was during the chip shortage, so there just wasn't a lot of. They had one, and I bought the one they had, so there wasn't much.
That's good.
there wasn't much haggling there. And I know it's a popular piece of gear, and they only had one left, and I was like, oh, are you expecting more of these? And the guy just gave me a look. So that I was like, all right, I need this. I guess I'll take it. And so that was, those are the audio interfaces, and those are, as far as like, I think bang for buck, you can't really beat the Focusrite stuff. I also have a Focusrite 2i2, the smaller one, that connects to the computer that runs Discord, and then there's just audio cables running between the two. I know I could do it a different way, but I choose to do it that way. It's actually simpler for me. If there's a problem or whatever, I can just restart the computer doing Discord, and it's completely separate from the rest of everything. That computer was also running Video Ninja for a while, and so that was really important because I didn't want Video Ninja audio problems taking down the whole system. But all those problems have worked themselves out. So I have various webcams, all of medium quality. Yeah. I have 2 pointed at me.
Medium.
I have 2 pointed at me right now. One that's so Matt can see me, and one so we can record and broadcast. I have another webcam over here that you can't see. It's actually pointed at my DJ equipment for right now. But it would, like, tomorrow night, it'll be pointed at the second mic here. And it'll be for a Chip and maybe Juan if Juan comes over. I have an Amazon
camera snob. I couldn't deal with the webcams. I had to get a full featured, prosumer video camera.
Oh, but you're also
at some point I should go over that one.
Yeah, but you're also into photography and video and stuff. You're also into that stuff more than I am. I just need something that displays me on the screen and doesn't mess with me too much. I also have an Amazon Echo Dot hooked up to the system here. My parents bought that for me for Christmas one year, and I had it next to my bed, and it was completely useless. Because I don't have smart home stuff, right? I don't have the bulbs or
Yeah.
any of the other stuff you need to make it useful. So I stuck
I'm
it
in the
on.
same boat.
Yeah.
Only I had the Google home thing. I don't think I got a discount, but I don't think I got it for working at Google. But I hooked it up, used it like a day, and then realized I never was going to use it again, so I unplugged it.
Yeah,
it's somewhere.
It's sitting here with the microphone turned off on it, and it's turned off on the mixer and stuff. But sometimes late at night, after a few drinks, we start asking it questions to see if it's learned anything since the last time. And the general answer is no, it doesn't know anything. But it was, since it was useless, and since I have all those inputs I mentioned before, I'm like, you know what, this is a headphone out on. I'm going to plug it into the podcast studio. I also have just a MIDI controller. It's a Novation launch control. I use it to turn on and off people's microphones, turn on and off the sound for the browser if I'm going to preview something or whatever. It obviously turns off the Echo Dot. It can turn off the soundboard. It's each important input has a knob on this mixer. This is discontinued, which sucks because it's starting to act funny on me. And
is there another version you can get, or is it that's the only one?
It's a form factor problem with the new version.
Oh, okay.
The new version's deep. It has more features and it's the same price, but it's deep, and I don't like it. What it'll do is it'll come disconnected basically, and so I'll go to hit a button to start a song, and the song won't start. So I have to unplug it, replug it in, and then refresh things. But I'll find a brand new old stock one somewhere. It's not that important. Speakers, they're really common. They're KRK rocket powered 5 monitors. They're just super common. I've had them forever. I have a power conditioner in the rack in the desk so that all of this, mostly just to protect the audio interfaces, honestly.
Yeah.
And the computer too, I guess. And it won't let anything nasty through. It'll just shut itself off if there's a surge or whatever. And then behind me, as the people on the podcast can see, there's a stand. In that stand is a DDJSX Pioneer Serato controller. That's actually a first generation DDJSX, the first release of it. They're on the 3rd generation now. The thing's about 10 years old. Somebody spilled a bottle of wine into it at Bike Party.
And it's fine?
It still works. I'd like to buy a new one, but I'm, again, chip shortage and stuff being as it is, not right now.
So tell all your friends about this show so we can get lots of people listening, and we can buy new equipment.
So we can sell some ads, or maybe even get a sponsorship from Pioneer.
Yeah.
And then hooked up to that is an old ThinkPad. And that's the only machine that runs Windows, because the DJ software Serato is not available for Ubuntu or for Linux. And the DJ software for Linux is perfectly fine for what we use it for during the show, like queuing up one song while the other's playing. But if I were to try to do anything interesting, it wouldn't do it.
No.
And there's another problem too. There's a general MIDI is the way it would hook up if it was under Linux. And there's a new format called HID, which is much more accurate. A general MIDI has 128 per knob, and HID, I think it's 100 times that or something. So it's much more accurate. So that has to run Windows, and that machine's just an appliance. I turn it on and I start Serato, and that's all that machine does. I hate the file manager in Windows. I hate it so much. I hate having to do file manager stuff. So unfortunately, I'm not 100% Linux because of Serato. But maybe one day they'll release Serato for Linux, or maybe one day the application Mix will catch up, or maybe somebody will make something new that does the same thing. But if I'm at an event and I'm being paid, they don't give a shit if I'm an open source purist, right?
Right. Yeah. I just want it to sound good.
They're there for what it sounds like. And I just realized that for the second time, now we have to put explicit on this show, because I've sworn twice. It's going to be very hard for me to not do that. Very hard for me to not do that. So there'll be a picture of the studio in the show notes. Well, there'll be a link to the wiki. We have our own wiki, which I'll talk about next week. There'll be a link to the wiki, and that'll include software information and stuff too. And I love gear. I know that I absolutely don't need all of the gear that I have here. I could do this on much less gear, but I am one of those people who is addicted to buying audio equipment. And so anybody out there, if you're thinking of starting a podcast or whatever, feel free to hit me up on Discord or Twitter. If you just want some gear advice, I'm not going to try to spend all your money like I've done here. I'm not going to try to build you a spaceship, but I will help you get what you need without spending too much money and make sure that you buy good stuff the first time. Because one of the mistakes we made when we started the podcast, this is long before you got here, we just tried to cheap out on the gear, and it was just the worst idea.
Yeah, that happens. I've had problems with that on other stuff before.
Yeah, it's almost always the situation where you don't want to buy the most expensive thing, but if it's something you care about, you're going to want to spend some money on it.
Right. Yeah.
For example, the USB audio interface is about, I don't know how much they are. I haven't looked them up during the shortage. I think they list at 600, but you could consistently get them for 450.
Okay. Yeah.
And then the the Octopre was actually listed at, also 600, 599.99, but you could consistently get that for about 380 before the chip shortage, just because it had less features or whatever. But that's no longer the case. You're paying list, especially for Focusrite stuff, because the 2i2 that I have here is the most popular audio interface in the world. And so if it's at a place, it's going to sell.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the hardware I have in the studio. Next week, I think we'll be talking about all the software that I run here. And that might go a little bit longer because there's a lot of stuff going on. But and I think people will be a little more interested in that. But I figure if people are listening to these in order, the hardware does come first, because you have to have something to run the software on, connect everything to. So I guess that's the show. Thanks for joining me this week, Matt.
Thanks for having me. And wait, whose show is this?
I guess it's your show.
It's our show, but
you're welcome for joining you this week, Matt.
Yes.
That was good. That was tight. Everybody make sure you check out our other shows. Just type Echoplex Media into your favorite podcatcher and follow us on Twitch, twitch.tv/Echoplex Media. We don't do this show live, but there will eventually down the road, if the show starts to gain an audience, we will maybe not do this show live, but have some associated thing of some kind that we do live on Twitch with this show.
Maybe Tech Red Light live.
Oh my God. Next time both of you are in town, we should just each throw down $130 and build a computer out of the $390.
Yeah. Probably pull it off.
All right. This has been How the Tech Are You. Thanks for listening.